such a chore getting ready to do radio, don't you know?
Sometimes.
I'm telling you, you got to get the earplugs in and, coughing over with and stuff like that. Hi, welcome to Mary Wieden You. Glad to have you along with us. In a couple minutes, we're going to get into the whole business about war and politics, too, with Dr. Glenn Antizzo from MC. But I got a couple pieces of work to tell you about. First of all, there was a story out this morning that Jackson Police Department is looking for your help, your help, with the trashing problem in South Jackson. People just throwing trash. There's some chapel, something rather apartment complex that got cleaned up yesterday. It's nasty. People just throw their trash. And it's just disgusting. And there are apparently a lot of places around South Jackson. They didn't detail the thing. But anyway, it was Detective Tommy Brown was talking about it. And, keep an eye out. If you see people trashing, call the Jackson Police Department. They want to get onto that stuff. And it's their phone number, if you don't know what it is. I hate it when people on TV go, well, call the police department. Well, put a number up for us. Duh, I don't know what the number is. But the number is 201-960-1234 is JPD. 601-960-1234. That's how you can get hold. That's the main number at JPD to report people throwing trash. I mean, there were gobs of it. Anyway, and it's not on city property, so it wasn't the city's purview to clean it up. The Hinds County chipped in and helped them clean up this god awful mess by this chapel something or other apartment complex. So anyway, do that if you can. Now, do you all know who Jamal Roberts is? If you don't know who Jamal Roberts is, you ain't in tune with stuff. Jamal Roberts is the new American Idol. And wow, is he good. I don't watch that program. I don't watch those shows. I just, I don't, The Voice and this and The View. I don't watch any of that stuff. But I heard that there was, the last time I watched it there was a student from Jackson State who was involved. I think he was like in the top 10. Well, Jamal was in the top 3. And so I made it a point to watch it Sunday night, and he won it, and he was so good. I mean, he's very versatile. He can do. I thought he was a balladeer more than anything, but he sang with Jelly Roll, right?
He did, but they had the double Disney night where they covered 2 different Disney songs, and he crushed that. That was several days before, about a week before, and then he moved into the top 3 where Meridian threw a ticker tape parade for him.
It was great.
So now that you win it,
it's going to be endless.
There's got to be another ticker tape.
Well,
parade.
there should be something in downtown Jackson, if you ask me.
Yeah,
Meridian's not that far away because he's representing the whole state of Mississippi, and he is an elementary school PE teacher.
Father of 3.
2. I thought it was 2.
I think he has
2 little
3.
girls.
I think he's a little.
There's
a
another
new
one?
I believe.
Oh, okay.
And then a great teacher.
Yep. Everybody loves him. You could just he's one of those people that you just gotta love.
People are jamming.
It's like you, Glenn. It's like Glenn Antizzo. If they threw a ticker tape for him at MC,
we should throw him one because he's such a great guest.
He's our professor.
But no, Jamal was amazing, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I wouldn't even know what genre he is going to succeed at because he's so versatile. Yeah. There's so much talent.
He did a Temptations song, too.
He can do anything.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's hard to do. I mean, then you jump up there and hang out with Jelly Roll, right?
And then Jelly Roll. I was like, whoa, how do you...
Yeah, that's. But again, that's what talent is. And he's got it filled to the eyeballs.
So
he does.
Is it prize money and you get a recording contract?
I think it's something. I'm trying to remember who owns the rights. Whoever owns whatever company it is at Disney or whatever that owns.
Oh,
the
Disney
American
owns ABC, I think.
Right. So they own the. There's some rights, and of course they want them to be successful. So they're going to help them in any way they can because I believe they get some payday off of the royalties and things of that nature for a while because it's kind of like, if you go work in an area as a teacher where there's a great demand for teachers, somebody might pay for it. Right. I think there's some of that where we've helped you get here, and so you may owe us a little bit for a little while.
Yeah.
A lot of what Disney is doing now is doing remakes of their animated films, live action, and their musicals. So look for him in one of those.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. I mean, he bellowed those 2 Disney songs in a way that I don't think many others could have jumped around like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I was just so happy for him, and all 3 of them. It was so interesting because the 3 contestants, one from Mississippi, one from Louisiana, and the other one from Texas, and that's pretty cool. I mean, when does that happen? That the South gets respect like that, and then Mississippi, yeah. Okay. Now the other thing is, I went to the Heart of the Horse thing challenge down at
I have that
Fordyce.
video. You want me to throw that video?
Yeah, if you want to, that'd be really good. Thanks. But I didn't get there. This is on Saturday, which god awful rainy day and everything. But I thought, hey, this is for the horses. So I got down there about 11:30, and they were about to break for lunch. Channel 3 was interviewing somebody, and I was watching them do that. And then they broke for lunch, and they came back at 1:00. They were doing ponies, and I'm of course the lousiest photographer you've ever seen. Terrible. I'm just not a good photographer.
I think you did a great job with the video, though.
Well, the video. You can squeeze it. If you squeeze it, you can see the little horse close up. Well, so what I got was, and I don't even know which horse this is. It was ponies. Excuse me, ponies. And
this
so
is a pony,
the trainer had him. She had him on a lead line, and she's leading him around. And then his circumference was getting bigger and bigger, and to the point where he got to this little jump, and he came and he did the little jump. And you think, well, big deal. Yeah, that's a big deal because to train an animal to do that is hard. It's just not easy. They don't necessarily grab it right away.
Well, I mean, the pony, his mannerisms or hers look like Hawk, my dog. I mean, he's my horse dog, and he's about his size of that pony. But I mean, he runs just like this horse. I mean, he's so proud of himself and trotting around and everything that you watch him and you know what they're thinking. They're having so much fun.
Well, having fun, or either that, or it's, why do I have to do this? My horse was like, why would I have to do that? I don't want to do that. Why would I have to? But anyway, but I saw, of course, Caitlin McDonald, who was here on the show, and she was so thrilled that everything was going so well. It was very successful, and they got sponsorship for next year, so they'll be back next year too. Down, and they were at the Fordyce Center, and I must request that the agriculture commissioner get that street paved. Man, oh man, it was so full of potholes, and I had to walk because it was raining, and I had to walk off of the road because cars were splashing and stuff like that. So I had to move over into this grassy goo. Thank God I had my cowboy boots on, but I was like, it's all about the horses. That's okay. It was it was a great time. Just a short time I was there, visiting with people during the lunch break. But happy for that. And so we'll do that next year. All right, Glenn Antizzo.
But I got to say, the pony, when he makes the jump, he's so excited. I love it.
Ooh, look what I did.
I did it.
Yeah. And could you tell that she was widening? Getting him
did
around.
A wonderful job on the video. We need to send you out on location more often.
Well, I should have been closer, but you could, if you squeezed it, not squeeze it, but expanded it. Did you?
Oh no, it was perfect size for the camera and everything was.
Did you make it big so you could see the horse?
Oh, you could see everything great. Yeah, it was perfect. Yeah, like I said, you did an amazing job on that. I'm very impressed.
Well, I'll have
if I can get Buddy Slowick to learn how to use a phone.
Well, I guess my next event would be. Gosh, it wouldn't be for a while. My next event like that would be the dog show.
Yeah.
And, we have, if you don't know this, Glenn, we've got the Magnolia Classic Dog Show, which is a big, big deal. Mm-hmm. It's an AKC sponsored.
We're going to have to get you down at the ground level on that.
Oh, yeah, I do go to the ground level on that.
Where's that hill?
That's Hill at the Coliseum. Yep, the Coliseum and the Trademark right there. And they do all breeds. I mean, gosh, I met some Cane Corsos. Have you ever seen a Cane Corso?
No.
They're a big jowled dog. They're very sweet. They can be guard dogs or companion dogs, but they're just big and sweet.
A lot of people call them Cane Corsos.
Yeah, they're not Cane Corsos. It's Cane Corso. Then you can also meet like a Xoloitzcuintli. Quintly. What?
Can we say that on air, Mary?
Yes. There's no naughty words.
Okay.
Xoloitzcuintli. It's XOLO so and so. It's a Mexican hairless dog. Well, some of them can have hair, but they call them just Xolos. They're the sweetest dogs. They call them the water bottle dogs because old people like to have them cuddle up to them because they're so warm. But there wouldn't really be. You wouldn't want to have a dog like that because you'd have to put baby oil on it all the time.
I got to imagine also they must have allergy problems.
They do.
The dogs themselves.
You got to keep them, especially about the skin being moist all the time. But and then regular dogs, all AKC dogs. Things Shih Tzus, German Shorthairs. I miss the German Shorthairs and the English Springers. I miss the stuff that I go for. The things I go for at that show, the English Springers because we had one, and the German Shorthairs because we had one. By the way, the actor Rob Lowe was on the cover of the AARP magazine, which anybody can get. I think you have to be 30 now to get it. But anyway, get an early.
Can I retire at 30? Yeah, no.
It depends if you know a good stockbroker. Yeah. But so there was a story about him, and he's got 3 German short-haired pointers. Do you see this?
No,
story?
I'm looking it up as you
3 German Shorthairs, and guess how many Jack Russells he's got?
Oh goodness.
2 Jack Russells.
2 Jacks.
2 Jacks. Maybe I've got it wrong. Maybe it's 2 German Shorthairs and 3 Jacks. Anyway, and then some other kind of a dog too. But it's like the hot dogs, German Shorthairs and Jacks. Anyway.
Yeah, I see one picture of it has him walking in the yard with 2 Jack Russells at least, German short-haired, and he's
that's just the one picture I think they had.
Yeah.
But in the story, it said he had like 6 dogs. Anyway,
good for him, man.
Yeah,
love a dog lover.
Yeah, really. So,
I like a cat lover too, Glenn.
You're a cat lover right here.
I like dogs, but I love cats. As a matter of fact, we're about to celebrate the 1-year birth of my cat Tiger. I had a cat that I loved named Lady, and I took her in off the streets of Thibodaux, Louisiana when I was living down there, and she passed away at 17 and a half on June 6th. So I wasn't ready to get another pet yet, because you're heartbroken, and it was such a part of your life, and Lady and I had a great bond. But my wife saw a cat during the WJTV segment that they do on Friday about pets, and so she saw one that was really cute, and she tried to convince me. I said, let me go over there and see, and if the cat likes me, maybe. And the cat draped himself over my shoulder and started purring. And I saw the photos later, and I was like, all right. And he and I have definitely bonded. I mean, oh my God, we refer to him as our son, and we take him everywhere. I mean, seriously, we had to go to New York for a family problem. My stepfather passed away in November. We took him in the car with us. He loved it.
Oh yeah. Oh good. That was cool.
In any case, it was great, and I absolutely love, as Lance pointed out, I love cats. I do like dogs. Don't. It's not that I don't like dogs. I like cats.
What is your color scheme on the kitty?
Tiger stripes, gray with black tiger stripes.
Nice. I like tiger striped cats.
Yeah, me too.
Gray tabbies, orange tabbies. They just have a personality that's unparalleled to me.
I agree. My wife, because he looks like a tiger, and because I'm an LSU alum, my wife wanted to give him some sort of a LSU name. She wanted to call him Joey B for Joe Burrow, but we decided we agreed on Tiger, and believe me, it fits his personality perfectly.
Now, did you spell it the official English way or the Cajun way when you spell tiger?
The official
Tiger or tiger.
We actually never. I don't think I ever wrote it down, so I suppose we have to
Tigahs.
That's right.
Well, Bert had a tiger for years. When we married, he had a tiger, and I brought Daisy, the Feist dog, from the Rescue League into the deal. And so his name was Callaway, because that's where they found him when he was a kitten at Callaway's. So anyway, Callaway was pretty cool, though. He was much like a dog. He purred. He got to where he got pretty attached to me, because I'd come home from work and he'd meow, 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 feed him. He wanted me to feed him, which was cool. And so, but he and the dog, the cat basically lived in the carport and outdoors, and Daisy lived in the house, but there was a fence yard, and they'd be at the fence and hissing and barking and stuff like this. Well, okay, one day I looked out, and we had built a deck on the back off of the family room, and here's Callaway walking this way, and here's Daisy walking that way. They walked past each other by about an inch, and neither one of them said anything, because they didn't know that I was watching them, and they really liked each other. It's the whole point of that. They
were playing your emotion,
but they didn't know. It wasn't because
what I'm saying is when they knew you were watching. Yeah, every animal I have, if they think I'm watching, it is total circus.
Yes.
The moment you're not looking, though, they're like, all right, let's turn it off.
Yes. Yeah, that was really. They were very cute, and I really liked Callaway. I'm not a cat person per se, but I liked Callaway, because he was personable, and he knew people, he knew his name, and all this kind of stuff. He was a sweet boy. He was a sweet boy. Okay, now sweet boy, Putin. What's Putin? Is he a sweet boy?
No.
Zelensky, is he a sweet boy?
Decidedly not a sweet boy.
And Trump. You take the three of them. Any sweet boys? Any goodest boys in that bunch, or what? I mean, have they? Wow, what's going on with those people?
Well,
how are they doing?
Well, obviously the war still goes on. The president had said that within 24 hours of his taking office, it was going to be over. Yep. It's not easy, because I think what happened was, I think he built a personal relationship with Putin during his first term in office, and I think that, like a lot of other presidents, George H.W. Bush was sort of like this, that they thought that they could personalize diplomacy. That, hey, we're friends, maybe we can reasonably talk about this. But, Putin's got his agenda on Ukraine, and clearly, he's got goals in mind. I think the eventual goal is to gobble up the whole thing, but right now he wants the half loaf, or the quarter loaf, I suppose, that he has. And so, there have been efforts You may remember, I think the last time I was here, we were talking about the blow up at the White House where, Zelensky was there and they were about to sign the mineral deal. And then Zelensky was questioning aspects about it because Zelensky understandably wants some sort of a security guarantee. And Trump and Vance both sort of got on him, and it was a public blow up at a press conference. Wasn't a very good look for anybody involved. But it did seem to kickstart the peace process a little bit. And anyway, there was supposed to be a conference held in Turkey this past week. And what happened was it was supposed to be Putin and Zelensky. There was some talk that Trump maybe would show up and that they were going to negotiate hopefully a deal to at least get a ceasefire, if not a permanent peace. The problem is that Putin decided not to show up. Trump decided, well, if Putin's not there, I'll just head back to the U.S. after, his big conference in Saudi Arabia.
Which was very successful.
Yes.
Very successful.
And so Zelensky ends up being there. And when he finds out that the Russians have sent a rather low-level delegation, he's, I'm not negotiating with underlings. So basically, he avoided the conference. So the conference was a bit of a train wreck.
Now they talk about whose idea is it? Is it the Pope's idea? How do you like our new Pope, by the way?
Pretty
cool, huh?
As a Catholic, I got to say that I like the idea of having an American Pope. As a Yankee fan, I'm a little disappointed he's a White Sox fan, but
he's Chicago.
But I can roll with it. No, so far, so far I like it. I thought, for me as a Catholic, I thought that maybe Francis was a little too lefty for me.
Yeah, me too.
When I heard the word Jesuit, I sort of
as they call them,
I knew,
yes, yeah.
I knew that he was going to be, sort of going down that road. But I'm more of a JP2 guy, and
me too.
This guy strikes me as sort of a balance between Francis on one side and JP2 on the other.
And after St. John Paul died, the chant was Santo Subito, sainthood immediately. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all that stuff. Oh, we're up on a break already. Are you believing this?
Time flies when you're having fun.
Time flies. It sure does. It's Dr. Glenn Antizzo from MC, in case you haven't figured that out. We'll take our first break, and we'll be back on Mary Wieden You. Stay where you are. We forgot about foys. This is a funny thing.
Got to talk about foys.
We have to mention foys because it's a great landmark in Rankin County. Dr. Glenn Antizzo is here from MC.
Take Glenn over and let him see foys.
You got to see. Well, you got the pictures, right? Have you got the pictures handy?
I can show. I'll send one to him. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can put on the air.
Let me do that. Yeah, let me get my hands free.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the deal. Foys was apparently quite a store in its day. It's on Old Brandon Road in Rankin County near Flowwood Drive. Mm-hmm. And it gets you, if you turn to the west, you stay on Old Brandon Road and you eventually cross the Woodrow Wilson Bridge, and then you get onto Jefferson Avenue. Right. And you can go there instead of going down Lakeland, all that awful stuff to get to the fairgrounds. And so I've always done that. And Bert and all those people, the Channel 3 people, you go there and you turn at Foy's and you get to Old Brandon Road. You get to Old Fannin. No. Get to Flowwood, Old Brandon to Fannin, and you go up to the reservoir. Okay, so Foy's has always been my marker, and it used to have a sign that said Foy's. You could always see it. And so lately, in the last couple of years, the sign has disappeared, but the store is still there. So I sent a picture to Lance. I said, "What is this?" And he act like he didn't know what it was.
Well, I mean, I know the building so well, but I couldn't guess. I didn't know the name. Yeah.
What came back to me is it's on the air now. What came back to me was, and I'm somehow not working this. Anyway, what came back to me was a Foy's from the 1930s or whenever that was. It was a gas station and grocery store. I mean, it was a place.
Oh, I think I know the place you're talking about.
Yeah, it's an old whitish. Well, it was white at one time, I think.
Well, I'm on demand, and I'm not. Oh, no, I'm not getting it.
Is this just south of Lakeland?
No. Okay, so once you take Flowwood Drive, like you're going to go over to Highway 80 from Lakeland Drive to Highway 80. So you're going to Old Flowwood. And then you'll take a right at Value once
Value is by Highway 80.
Yeah, but I mean, that's...
way down.
We're going the back way.
Way back.
If you're wanting to cross the old Woodrow Wilson Bridge... You would take a right there, and the Foy's would be on your left. So, you'd go into Jackson the old way, which was WLBT, the studio, coming in over the river right there. That bridge at one time as they ranked them out of 100. 1 being the best, I think, 100 being the worst. That was a 99 plus back when I was traveling over it every day. It's much nicer now. They fixed it, but this was back in the early 2000s.
It's still narrow. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
But yeah, they redid it, and it's much better. But Foy's is in that neck of the woods. It's an old kind of, you just crossed over the river, and now you're in Old Flowood, and Foy's was one of the first places. There was also a spot there called Jack's Tamales.
Oh,
it was just a
I
little
remember
wooden
Jack's
building before you got to Foy's.
I love that you know these spots. Man.
Oh, yeah,
That's
man.
great.
So when I worked downtown, my boss, Jack Kyle, would be like, let's have tamales today. And he'd say, send me over to go to Jack's. Don't go anywhere else. And I'd go over to Jack's and get 100 of them for like $20. They were all wrapped up in newspaper, and you'd visit with Jack. And it was just like a little bait shed that, he had tamales in, and they were delicious.
Anyway, so I passed it. Saturday I had to use it as my marker to turn on my way back from downtown. I don't like to go. Driving is so awful around here. It's so terrible. I don't want to use Lakeland. I don't want to use 55 because you take your life in your hands in a lot of ways. I used to be a good driver until I moved here. But anyway, so to get down to the fairgrounds, to the horse thing, and just to get to downtown, just take Flowood Drive off of Liberty, which is Flowood Drive, in Flowood. It sounds odd, but anyway, you take that all the way down. You take it down to Highway 80, and then you're down at the what do you call them? The discount place. The outlets. You're down at the outlets.
Yeah, if you took a left, right.
Well, and also I used to use it when I did the helicopter. We were right near the place, the big tractor place. We were near there is where the heliport was. So I'm familiar with that place, with that road. So anyhow, just past Old Foy's, and you have to really look for it because there's no sign anymore. So I'm thinking it would be cool to get a big piece of plywood and paint Foy's on it and just stick it up there. And I got all worried because I thought, oh, it's for sale. Well, it wasn't for sale. There's some signs there, but they were not real estate signs. They were for mosquitoes. Mosquitoes to use. But anyway, now we got to get back to our discussion here with Dr. Glenn Antizzo from MC about what the heck is going on with, we talked about the Pope. And somebody had the idea. Was the Pope invited them to come to the Vatican?
I don't know. I think
Trump's idea?
I think it sounded to me from the press accounts I've been reading that it was Trump's idea. But I wouldn't surprise me if the Vatican maybe volunteered to say.
They want to do that.
By the way, let me just, I just want to clarify one thing before we go any further, because I got to face my priest this weekend, for Mass. When I said that the Pope, that Francis was a lefty, I certainly did not mean he was a Marxist or anything. I mean, he's more liberal than we're used to, I think, with the last few popes that we've had. And so that's caused a little bit of a division in the Catholic Church. I think that the current Pope is more of a compromise between the more liberal Francis and the more conservative John Paul II. Obviously. The Jesuits tend to be towards the more liberal side of the Catholic Church, and again, they're certainly not Marxists.
And they're at Notre Dame, by the way. If you want to know where they are, that's a big place where they are.
And so, in any case, I felt compelled to point that out. So I didn't want anybody thinking there was some radical Marxist in the Vatican. But just getting back to Ukraine again, Trump had said that, a peace deal would follow a meeting between himself and Putin. Again, I think that he's planning on using personal diplomacy. But that 2-hour call on Monday.
I want to know how that went.
Well, he said that he sort of changed his tune and said that peace could only be directly negotiated between the Russians and the Ukrainians, with, as you pointed out a moment ago, the Vatican possibly acting as a moderator. Now, Putin, for his part, said that the conference, any conference that they hold, would simply lead to a crafting of a, quote, memorandum on a possible peace agreement, unquote. So the Kremlin position right now is that there's not going to be any full peace until the underlying concerns, that is to say, their underlying concerns, are addressed. And they don't like the fact that Ukraine is pulling closer to Europe. They don't like the idea of Ukrainian NATO membership. And also, at issue seems to be a larger, question for us, and that is, Trump, I think, is trying to create a sense of urgency by saying, and Vice President Vance has repeated this, that the U.S. is ready to walk away from negotiations. Basically telling the two sides, look, if you guys can't come to an agreement, we're done. And, of course, that begs the question is, would American disengagement from the peace negotiations also involved a cutoff of military and intelligence assistance that we've been giving to the Ukrainians since the beginning of the war. Now, clearly, from what I've been, reading and seeing in the media, is that Trump is angry at both sides.
Right.
And he appears to be, in my opinion, and this is a positive development, waking up to the fact that the Russians, I think, have been negotiating in bad faith. The Russians keep putting these impossible preconditions on peace. There has to be an end to Western military and intelligence aid to Ukraine. The Ukrainians have to demobilize their military. The Ukrainians need to withdraw completely from the contested regions. Ukraine would have to have elections for a new government, which the Russians will be interfering in to get their guy elected. Again, something I said in an earlier program, this is a beautiful opportunity for Trump to assert his leadership and say, look, this is the way it's going to be. I just told Zelensky he's got no cards to play with. Neither do you. You're blowing through troops very rapidly. You have to bring in mercenaries from the Middle East. You have to bring in troops who are essentially mercenaries from North Korea. The Chinese are backing up. You're getting drones from Iran. You can't handle this. You are an unsustainable course right now. The one thing, though, I got to say, Trump was playing this mineral deal as something that would stop Russian attacks. The deal has been signed. I don't know if it's been ratified by the Ukrainian parliament yet, but it has been signed.
That we get the mineral rights.
Right.
And does that necessitate our having troops over there to guard the site or anything like that?
No, it does not. And that's why I've thought this is a bad deal for Ukraine. Trump has kept putting out there that, the Russians would never attack because we're here. Well, maybe they won't attack the mining facilities, but that doesn't mean that they're going to stop bombing Kiev or Odessa. So, I'm a bit suspicious of this. I think that the president legitimately thought that signing that mineral deal would provide a measure of protection in a way that would not antagonize the Russians in the same way that NATO membership would.
See, and that what worried me was that we would get drug into this like Vietnam, slowly but surely, providing resources, providing expertise, providing hardware, providing machinery.
Right, I got you.
And then protecting our investment, and all of a sudden, we've got 100,000 people over there.
Right, and that I think that is a fear, and that's been a nagging fear of any American involvement anywhere. Like, for example, we've been in Syria for years now, and that was originally just an operation to save Yazidis, and then became a war against ISIS. But the point I'm making with this is that, again, I think the Russians want the whole thing.
I think Putin likes war.
It certainly distracts.
He's getting drained, but it does. It distracts him. Anything else, he likes it.
Well, you think of Hitler. One of the things that motivated Hitler was to right the wrongs of the Treaty of Versailles and the surrender of Germany. Now look at Russia. How many years later now are we dealing? 60, 80? We're looking at a full cycle. All right, so now you got a president who his whole country is just a piece of what it was when he was the KGB and all. He wants glory back, and he's mentioned that 1,000 times.
Yeah, he wants the USSR.
All back.
Yeah, he wants it back. Yeah, we've talked about that.
That's the motivation.
So I think that Trump basically needs to tell him, look, this is the way it's going to be. My opinion, just my opinion. Okay, you get de facto control. Not. I know we've put on the table that we would recognize legally that he's got Crimea, that we would recognize de facto that he's got, the other 4 provinces, which would require the Ukrainians to withdraw from them. If you do that, and I don't think it's a good deal. I think you say, look, yes, we recognize that you occupy these places and that the cost of war to liberate them, at least on the battlefield, is too great. And we can negotiate this later during some sort of a final settlement. But I think you need this is my opinion, and you probably get flooded with people who are going to disagree with me. I think what you end up doing is saying, look, the other 80% has got some sort of a NATO protection. Even if they're not a member of NATO, there's got to be some sort of protection there. Otherwise, it's a bad deal. I think what you're asking Putin to do, if you give in to the demands Putin's been making, is you're giving them the first 20% of the loaf, and then giving them a breathing space to rearm, regroup, re-equip, and then you go for the rest later. Knowing that the West will not take a stand.
How about we won't join NATO because we can't anyway, but we won't join. Let's say I'm Ukraine. We won't join NATO if you give us back the Donbass or whatever that version, that region that you got already. You can have Crimea. We give you Crimea. You can have Crimea, but you can't have anything else.
Well, I think the reason the Russians want Crimea is because they got a major naval base there.
Yeah, they've been there for a long time.
Yeah, and just do like they did in Finland years ago. Okay, you have the naval base. Give us back the rest.
Take a break. I know. I didn't realize till recently that you get your music. You must get really hyped up on Saturdays, right?
Well, I mean, I'm always hyped up, but I don't.
I mean, about music.
Well, I mean, it just depends. Nellie has a lot of fun watching me dance around, and Buddy does. So, I try to enjoy.
Yeah, there's a lot of dancing that goes on in there, in that room, by the way.
Yeah, a lot in here. I'm glad the camera.
You have a camera. You have a camera.
Yeah, I try to.
But you don't.
It's not about me. It's about y'all.
No,
so, yeah.
well, when you talk, you can turn the camera on you. Okay, so back to Russia and Ukraine, and that thing about why should they keep what they took this recent time? If do you think Zelensky's strong enough to put up with all this, by the way? Do you think he's strong enough to try to outsmart Putin and smart enough to get along with Trump? Or what is the deal with Zelensky? Do you think he's grown in this job? Or?
I think he has. I think that he's grown in the job, and I think he feels a sense of purpose as a wartime leader in order to see the country through this. Remember, this guy was offered by Biden a jet out of the country if he wanted to leave.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. By Biden or whomever was serving as president that day.
He didn't have to stay. But he knew that he should stay, and so I think that he deserves a lot of respect for that. And the Ukrainians, by the way, have been, I think, very fair about this. They've been saying, look, they're open to a ceasefire, but the ceasefire has to be unconditional, with serious negotiations going on with a high-level delegation to negotiate a permanent peace, rather. But Putin keeps imposing demands that he knows will be rejected by Kiev in order to keep the war going. But he's trying to play to his domestic audience, who I'm not sure completely buy everything that he's selling. But keep in mind, as we were saying off the air before, I think that there's a multi-level chess game being played here, and Trump's involved in this, and that is that, look, you cannot show weakness to the Russians. You cannot allow the Russians to succeed here because everybody else is watching what you're doing, and you are inviting trouble from Iran if you're trying to negotiate some sort of a nuclear disarmament deal. You're inviting trouble from the Chinese. You're inviting trouble from God knows where else. If you show weakness. And I think that's part of the reason Obama, in terms of handling international affairs, was, in my opinion, a failure. Because, he kept drawing red lines. If the Syrian government uses chemical weapons against against the people, there's a red line. And then we do nothing. We send over John Kerry to negotiate a deal that wasn't really much of a deal. They just shifted which chemical weapons they were going to use. John Kerry came back, well, I've just negotiated a deal that will get these chemical weapons destroyed. That's great. So they got rid of those weapons. They started using chlorine bombs instead.
Iran worries me very much so because, I think their attitude is, if I were an Iranian, I'd be like, who are you to tell me that I can't have nuclear weapons? Who are you to tell me? I got all this money now. I can do what I want to do. And, you are in your lane, I'm in my lane. I'll stay in my lane, but I'll have nukes. Who are you to say that I can't have them and that you can have them and I can't, and I'm big as you are or bigger? And that's a terrible thing to say, but I would not be surprised if there's a lot of that thought going on.
I think you are absolutely right, Mary. I think there is.
I think that is.
No, I think, and they're not the only ones saying stuff like that. Countries like North Korea, Pakistan, and others, who do have nuclear weapons, basically say the same thing. Hey, look, who are you guys? The old sort of Euro-North American club there of Russia, Great Britain, France, the United States, that you can have weapons and that we can't.
Exactly.
And I think that they realize, watching how we've dealt with North Korea, that it is a restraint on what the West does. The West has been in the past deeply involved in, Iran. We got the Shah back into power in 1953. And so it's sort of their guarantee. Hey, look, speaking of that, by the way, the Ukrainians voluntarily gave up their nuclear weapons in 1994. They had weapons that were left over from when they were part of the Soviet Union. And as long as they had it, the Russians couldn't make a move. They voluntarily gave it up because they wanted to be everybody's friends, and now 20% of their country is occupied.
Yep.
Don't think that lesson is lost on the Iranians. I think that you may be right. Again, I'm not excusing it. The idea that a theocracy that thinks that the Middle Ages were a great time to be alive socially and has nuclear weapons to sort of make it happen, scares me. And I feel bad for the Iranian people because it is clear to me that the Iranian people, especially the younger generation, want a more liberal. They're proud to be Iranians, but they'd like to be free as well. They don't.
Yes.
They embrace Islam, but they don't like the version that's being imposed on them.
Yep.
So
none of this stuff is easy. But the whole thing about the Russians and the Ukrainians going to the Vatican might not be a bad idea. The Pope, by the way, there's one thing he's called for: unity, and I think he's talking more like unity of religions. Of Lutherans and Episcopalians and Baptists, everybody, one unity, religious. Because I think that's people have said, well, that's in the Bible. Jesus wanted that. He wanted everybody to believe it. Of course, in those days, we didn't have all these Protestants, as I call them, the Protestants. I call them Protestants because that's what they are. They protest. But so maybe if they do go to maybe they would get some of that unity thing. I don't know. Maybe that's naive to think.
I didn't even think about this till you mentioned it. Now, I wonder if this is, Trump didn't say it, but I wonder if this is in a way, a retreat. The accusation has been, and I think there's some truth to this, that the Trump administration's been a little too open to Russian demands at the expense of Ukraine. If Trump is not involved, I think maybe the Vatican could cut a more equitable deal with both sides.
That's a good thought. Do the rest of the people in the world want the Vatican cutting stuff like that? Or are they like, stick to religion, stick to worrying about your priests and stuff like that? Yeah. But that is, I don't see anything wrong with that. That would not be my attitude, because I think this Pope is open to that without diminishing his role as, look, I'm Catholic too, the father of our church and all that.
Right.
If he can spread it beyond and strike while the iron's hot, because Catholicism is hot right now.
Right.
So I don't know. Who knows?
But I think I think also maybe Trump sent a little bit of a message, not directly, but going to Saudi Arabia, showing that the U.S. has support and good relations with nations in the Islamic world. We respect them as long as they respect us. And we've cut the deals with the UAE. We've cut the deals with Saudi Arabia. We're trying to warm up relations, which I'm still a little wary about with Syria.
And we got the plane on the table with Qatar.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you what, I'm a little worried about that. I bet they better go over that plane with a fine-tooth comb to make sure there's no listening devices and stuff
crazy.
Like that.
That's nutty.
But again, I think the U.S. is doing what it can to strengthen its position in the Islamic world and in the Middle East, and that may I would not be the least bit surprised. Because I think that Trump wants this. Because if he did, this would get him that Nobel Prize he wants so bad. But in the next few years, look for an expansion of the Abraham Accords, where now Saudi Arabia decides to have peace with Israel. I don't know if you remember this, but about a year ago, when the Iranians launched those missile attacks on Israel, who were the countries that shot a lot of that stuff down? The UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan. Now, Jordan already has a peace treaty with Israel. The UAE recently got one just before Trump left office. Especially UAE and especially Bahrain. Nobody would have cut a deal with Israel had the Saudis not sort of quietly given their backdoor approval. I think maybe the time is right. Who knows? Maybe peace is at hand in a big way in the Middle East.
Peace in the Middle East.
And by the way, I said, you call it Qatar, and I said Qatar. But here's the thing. Years ago, there was a story on NBC Nightly News because somebody wanted to know what's the proper pronunciation of Qatar. And the sheik basically said, well, it's Qatar is the main pronunciation, but it's perfectly okay to say Qatar or gutter. I mean, that just,
I've heard people say gutter. I say Qatar,
well,
but
I do too.
Even the talking heads. Cutter.
Well, they think they're fashionable. On the networks they think they're fashionable, but I think Trump calls it Qatar.
Yeah, but you don't call them Qataris.
That's right. You don't call them Qataris either. But anyway, the Sheikh says anything was fair. Qatar, gutter, and Qatar, of course. But Qatar to me is pronounced Qatar. Qatar.
Gutter may be the appropriate pronunciation in Arabic, but I certainly in English would not want my country called gutter.
Yeah, really.
So
peace might be at hand. Wow.
If I ever get another cat, I'm going to probably name it Houthi. Because those dudes would be wiped out for long. Somebody's got to remember them,
Something you need Ruthie. You need Houthi or something like that. That's it.
And that is something that I've been happy about, seeing the strong stand taken against the Houthis.
I've never heard of them till recently.
That group, they've been blocking shipping on the Red Sea. They were originally saying that they were doing it in support of the Palestinians, but it's clear that they've got a bigger agenda than that. They are one. If you can look at Iran's theocracy as sort of a multi-armed octopus that wants to have a tentacle in every part of the Middle East, whether people in the Middle East want it or not. And obviously, their guys in Hamas have all but been wiped out as an effective force. Hezbollah, similar, but to a lesser extent. So they're looking for the Houthis to be the tentacle that does the damage in the Middle East, and it's not working out for them because now finally the U.S. and the West, we had a joint operation with the British recently, are giving them a bloody nose. And you got to give a terrorist like that a very bad bloody nose to make them think twice.
And it can be a long summer, and it's going to be an interesting summer, isn't it? So you're out for the summer. So
yes,
when you're not traveling around doing whatever it is you're going to do this summer, we look to have you back because things are going to be happening, and it's so great to be able to have you come back. And so, Dr. Glenn Antizzo, thank you very much. Thank you, Lance. All right, everybody, have a good one. Friday we're going to do some more politics again. We got Ashby Foote on Friday, and we got Grace Green next Tuesday. See ya.